I'm Mel Stewart, and this is the SwimSwam Podcast. Joining me today, an old friend. Today, I have somebody that's coming on whenever she wants to talk. It's just like, hey, let's, we can talk about anything, but any excuse is a welcome excuse to talk to my good friend, BJ Bedford Miller, former world champion, Olympic gold medalist from the 2000 games in Sydney. She has extensive experience on the wet side and the dry side of the sport. This is a woman who is dialed in. She knows what's going on. She's also a power player. She's on the USA Swimming House of Delegates with me. We're going to be voting in September. Looking forward to it. BJ's here to talk about Parity. This is a new company she's working with, and they have exciting things moving forward into the future, ways to strengthen our sport, make it healthier. And it's something that we hope that everybody joins up and participates in.
I am doing great. I've just had a month off and I'm getting to start basically my dream job. I'm back involved in sports after being in software for a real long time. So now I'm so excited about being able to give back to not just my sport, which of course gave me, who I am, but a whole lot of other sports and really the thing I'm passionate about, which is women athletes, right? So right. Yeah, I'm doing great. I think I just covered the whole podcast right there.
It's over. We can punch out right now. For everyone out there listening, you're listening. You probably know BJ. You're a friend, or you're a young swimmer who's heard about BJ through your coach or your peers. The company's Parity, and so hit pause right now. Go over to paritynow.co. Paritynow.co. Give the site, just dive in, look at it. This is for you. Come back and we're going to get the 411 from BJ. BJ, tell me about this company and tell me what you're doing.
Yeah. So the biggest problem we're trying to solve is the fact that women make 50 cents for every $100 that men make in the world of sports marketing and sponsorship. That is just an absurd chasm of disparity. And thus the name Parity. We are trying to create parity between men's and women's sports across all sports. And it's really in the pay. And it's not necessarily time or, media coverage. It's about pay. It's about dollars and putting dollars in the pockets of women athletes and letting them be able to chase their dreams for longer if they want to, right? So it's a marketplace where we have a team of athletes on one side who are generally social influencers. So they've got a few thousand followers up to, 25, 30,000 followers. And then we have a team of people who are calling out to brands, to Microsoft, to dog food brands, to Spot and Tango.
When we think about the sport of swimming, oftentimes we pound our chest and we say, hey, this is a great sport for one specific reason. A woman can achieve exactly what a man can achieve. And that has been a lot of the success of our sport. And also, if you're really diving into the metrics, more women watch as fans the 16 days of glory every 4 years than men. It skews slightly female. And you and I, we've both got Olympic gold medals. We both know what the business side of it's like. I am aware that men. I'm aware of contracts. I'm sometimes under NDAs, but I'm aware that contracts with men skew higher. I don't know in terms of percentage wise if it's 50% more, but I do know in certain sectors of the marketplace that's spot on.
Yeah,
and it's something that I'm sensitive to, because when we launched SwimSwam, we get reminded. We're like, hey, you have a lot of guys on the cover of your magazine, or it seems like there's a lot of news that's out there. And, this is, when they're professionals, this is their livelihood. They're like, they expect parity. And it's something that we're sensitive to. And now that I'm talking to you, I'm feeling it even more. But I know that you've worked with swimmers so far. Can you talk about some people you've collaborated with so far?
Yeah. So if you follow Rebecca Sony, if you follow gosh, let me look at this. Caroline Burkle is somebody that we've got on the list. Lizzie Smith, Morgan Stickney, each one of the Lizzie, Rebecca, and Morgan have all done work for Rebecca and Morgan have both done Spot and Tango, which is fueling their puppy dogs, right? So when they're away training or competing, they want to make sure that their dogs are fed well. So that we've partnered up with a great dog food company that has sponsored those two swimmers. Lizzie Smith has done a really awesome Instagram reel about her morning, like getting up in the morning and using mud water. And so these are a couple of 4 people, right, that we have on our list. But Breja Larson is another, Laura Wilkinson, Paige Madden, Cassie. I mean, the list goes on. So we are actively out there soliciting, working for them to try to drive money and sponsorship into their pockets.
You can tell me this, and you probably have a little more expertise, but you wouldn't have to be an expert to understand it. We interface with so many companies on the SwimSwam side, and oftentimes they use female athletes, female professionals to leverage their brand, and they do because women have bigger followings on social, and it's because they manage them well.
Right.
And they're organized, and it seems to me like this is where companies are moving anyway.
Well, it's really interesting you bring that up. Number one, the athletes, I think what the athletes bring to the table is authenticity. They are who they are. They are chasing these goals. They're chasing these dreams. They know that they have to take care of themselves. So there's a whole lot of things that we all did to take care of ourselves in the way that we, nutrition wise, workout wise, going to bed at the same time. Like we have all of these things that we did. So, what they're selling and who is really who they are. And the thing and I think you're hitting on this too. What's really interesting about it is that people are getting their information in different ways. Like you're not reaching people through the television, except for the Olympics for the most part. And yet most of these people are getting their information streaming, right? Even the Olympics, right? So they're looking for brands need to be looking for different ways to reach these marketplaces. And these athletes, because of the authenticity, because people are like, what are you doing that you're successful? They have a following that is really engaged, right? And they're like more than somebody like a Kim Kardashian, right? These are our heroes. They're America's heroes. And they're just out there trying to make it happen. And people resonate with that. And I really think this is I think you're absolutely right. This is where things are going. And we want to help women be at the forefront of it. What's
interesting is that I think back to your career, and it was, you were such a big personality, and, you got your hardware at a storied Olympic Games.
Mm-hmm.
But then you segued pretty quickly onto the dry side, but you have real world experience on the other side of the desk, sales and marketing with Nike when they came in hot and heavy into the marketplace, and they were a force for a long period of time. They left for a bit after you were gone. And that makes me kind of wonder what really happened there. And they're back, but but you saw it on the other side. Yeah. And I'm curious as to, why would you make that transition so quickly? A lot of Olympic athletes sort of flounder, and they don't really have a path forward. It seems like you dovetailed pretty seamlessly.
Well, thank you for that. It didn't feel seamless. I think everybody really has a hard time, or at least everyone I've spoken to who's been on the national team, who literally is at the top of that mountain, right? Like, woohoo, I'm winning. And then I'm the best in the world. And then it's like, okay, do you want an internship? We're not sure if we're going to pay you, right? Like, So I started off, I think my first gig with Nike once on the dry side was, we'll give you $1,500 worth of swag to go to nationals and give out suits. And I was like, okay, but and I just was, so for me, that transition was like, it was like a baby step out of the pool, because I still got to be around all the people that I knew and all of that kind of stuff. And then when I started working with Nike, the goal was, we want to sign athletes that are going to be able to go to the Olympics and win medals, right? So we had Aaron Pearsall, we had Brendan Hansen, we had amazing swimmers. So that was pretty easy. And I knew everybody. So I helped facilitate those things. Again, I don't know if, I think it's been long enough that no one's going to get mad at me for telling you that I think my pay was a 1099, and it was, I think I made $15,000 and $20,000 for each year, and then $5,000 worth of stuff. Right. So I started off like a pauper. My first real job with Nike Swim, I was getting paid $35,000 a year. So, I mean, it's not like which was probably one of my better years in sponsorship. It's $35K, but then, I actually got insurance with it. So, I mean, it starts off really like, it is hard. It's hard to crawl back. And if I didn't have the support of my family, I wouldn't have been able to make it.
I never would have guessed that. And all of our times together and seeing each other, I never would have I would have guessed your pay at 4 or 5-fold that amount based on the responsibility you had. I'm sorry, I'm picking my jaw up off the ground.
Yeah, I at one point, so Seth Ellison was the head of the Nike I think Olympic. He was at Nike Swim, and I think it was Seth was the president of the swimwear group. And he called me one day, and I was going to the bank to take out a second mortgage. And he was like, "What are you doing?" Because he used to like to check in with people who were sort of feet on the street. And I was like, "I'm going to the bank to take out a second mortgage. My husband's in school, and like, this is the job we have." And he's like, "What are you talking about? Like, what are you making?" And I was like, "I'm at 35K. And he's like, "No, you're not. You're at 50. We're making that change today." To your point, like, I don't think anybody knew, and I didn't know. I'd never had a real job. I was like, I get paid $35,000 a year. That's awesome. I had no idea. And, that's part of what I'm hoping we can do at Parity, is help people make those transitions and understand their worth as well. And one of the things I'd love to do, I don't know if this is even going to be a part of it, but one of the things I'd love to do is help figure out how to get people sometimes placed in these companies if they want a job afterward, right? So how do we help with that transition? I know there's a lot of content on the site around negotiation and things like that about how to help these athletes. I want to make Parity a place where athletes can go, where they know that they're going to get really helpful information. That's, for me, the hardest part was leaving the sport and trying to figure out who I was going to be without it. And if I can help get some of that stuff, and I know that's kind of part of the history of Parity, is there is some of that content, and I'm hoping that we can really make it awesome, because that's where my heart is, right? It was such a hard transition, and if I can help people to navigate that, I think that makes the world a better place, because the world needs more swimmers and more athletes in the workforce.
What's interesting is that we went through a period of time from, I would say, 2006 to 2010, when we had the super suits, full body suits. And when we did, so many players moved into the marketplace. Yeah. And what we did see was that this deep well of professionals. Suddenly people could earn a living because there were so many players in the marketplace, and it was healthy. I feel like we're those suits were eventually banned because there was too much technology, but I thought that the impact economically was very positive. I feel like we're in that same position now with the combination of two things: the rise of social media and the maturity of social media, and the ability for athletes to now earn a living off of their name, image, and likeness. NIL matters. We're seeing particularly young women who come into the elite status at 15, 16, 17 years old. And I can see them making partnerships. What I'm not seeing is partnerships with the companies that you listed at the top of this podcast. Yeah. I'm seeing These partnerships don't match the swimmer's value. And particularly women. I'm seeing like small regional nail companies, and they're not, I'm like, you know what, they need. So it's funny that I heard from you and you said that you're doing this right now. I think the timing is perfect. So in a real world situation, I'm 16 years old and I'm 100 backstroker, and I'm now, I'm ninth in the world. Next year I should final at world championships. How do you engage them? How do you work together?
Yeah. Well, I would hope that, maybe she's listening to this podcast today and she goes out and she signs up and she fills in all this information about who she is, what she likes to do every day, what her challenges are, what all the things that she does. And then we take a look at that. And let's say she's been really active socially, right? So she's got Instagram followers, she's on TikTok, and it's mostly her school friends, but she's starting to like get a following because of her good swimming, right? So people are starting to notice, and she's fun and she starts putting cool stuff up. We're going to take a look at that. We're going to see how she is engaging with the world and how the world is engaging back with her. And then we're going to look at all of the brands that we could call on and look for alignment. What are her values? What are the values of a brand that she wants to represent and be represented by? Like that there's just a really good synergy there. And then we're going to I have a team of people who are going to be calling out to brands once they find these synergies, and pitching the athlete, pitching what they're going to bring to the table, and, putting dollars in her hands, and hopefully trying to make this a long-term thing. Right.
The beauty of this, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go for it.
No, I just think the beauty of this is that I see a lot of athletes and they need that bridge. And here's the bridge. It's one that uniquely. I don't want to sign a large swimmer contract because I know that my value is going to be different in 12 months or 18 months. But I do need support. And I am a force in the marketplace and someone that people look up to. Right. It seems to me like this is a Parity fits in all different ways, all throughout your career. But it seems to me like this would be a great first step.
Yeah. I mean, I think right now, we're not working with, the Simone Biles, because she's working with, IMG and the big guys. Right. And we're really working with the hustlers who are making their names, or, have gotten with us early and stayed with us. Kara Winger is actually part of Parity. She's a 4-time Olympic javelin thrower. She was the flag bearer in Tokyo. She has never medaled at the Olympics, but she embodies everything about the Olympic spirit. Kara actually came to Parity, or came and did a sales call with Parity, and then went out and threw her silver medal performance in Oregon at World Championships at her final Worlds. But she has a 9-to-5. She has a job, and we're flexible, right? And we support her in that, but she has to have a job to support her going and chasing that dream. And, I think this is meant to, number one, cross that chasm just by putting money in pockets every single day. Like, how much money can we get into the hands of women athletes? Because if I can move that 50 cents to $1, we're moving it. It's not as much. Like, I want that $100 that men make, I want that to be $100 that women make. But right now it's 50 cents. So how do we put money in the pockets of athletes? So maybe we move it to $1, right? So we're starting small, but there are other, we do have some big contracts with big organizations that are, contracted with us for multiple years. And we're working to, find the best way to distribute that. So yes, it can start early. We want this to grow to be a business for everybody. And this is a big business, right? Parity is not a nonprofit. We are a for-profit organization. We want everybody, like high tides rise all boats. We want the money to come into the sports and to go across women's sports and women athletes so that we can make enough money to continue to give ourselves the freedom to choose, right? I retired from swimming because my contract expired at the end of 2000. I didn't have a choice to go and continue unless I was, independently wealthy, which I unfortunately was not. But I don't want the money to dictate whether people decide they want to keep going or not. And that for me is really personal.
Most of our young elites are if they're active, they drop in on the pod, but oftentimes it's their coaches, it's the parents, but they're on social. So if I want to follow Parity on Instagram, what's the handle? At Parity Now.
Yes, at Parity Now. I was like, let me get to Instagram.
At Parity Now. At Parity Now.
At Parity Now. That's where you go.
Yeah, you can be listening to the pod. You can pop over here and you can give at Parity Now a follow. And you can start checking everything out, which is what we want you to do. There's something that should be said. And I don't want to get too heavy, but let's just say it. It's when there isn't parity, it's toxic. When there isn't parity, it's not good for the health of the sport. And if you care about your sport, you want this. And it's so I appreciate the good work you're doing.
Thank you. I mean, and I would say for any kids who are listening, who are young in the sport and maybe are thinking, this might be for me. The thing you need to do to make yourself valuable, not just for Parity, but across everything, and to really set yourself up to be able to be the master of where you want to be, right? Get your social stuff rolling. Start creating followers, start creating content, get out there. And as you get better and better, you're going to get more followers, and be yourself. Don't, fake something, because that's, that everyone can see through that, especially on social media. But get out there, make yourself into who you want to be out there. And as I've heard a lot, fake till you make it, and then just build your own brand. And then once you do that, a company like Parity can help launch that into the stars.
What's interesting is this just came to mind, and this hasn't happened yet. It has not happened until this year. Oftentimes will be, and I'm not going to name the names, but there's 5 or 6 brands globally in swim for swimwear.
Mm-hmm.
And we get called in and we drop in and we do behind the scenes media. Typically it was, they would do their catalog shoots. And if you and I, the old school catalog shoot was, we're going to be in the catalog. It's great. And
they're putting makeup on us.
They're going to put makeup on us. And that, yes, me too. It's fun. And it's this printed thing. And now, of course, it's it's the catalog, but it's digital and it's advertising everywhere. But something new and unique has happened. These same brands, all the big brands, are having a 4-day get together where they're capturing their catalog, but they dedicate a lot of their time to just creating social media content. They're basically just, it's like, they rent out big spaces with cool toys, and they're creating content, and they're helping athletes create content. They're buying them infrastructure and cameras and lighting kits to make it easy on them to get high quality content. I'm sitting there watching this and I'm just amazed. I'm amazed that I'm seeing it. I'm like, okay, we've arrived. On top of that, they're spending time before they begin where they take a 10-hour day and they eat breakfast and they have a talk and they talk about who you are and your brand and what your messaging is. And they break for lunch and they do 4 more hours after that. And what's interesting is like, well, this doesn't necessarily, it's good for your brand, but what's the motivation? Like it's good for our brand, but we also want them to go out and make partnerships with companies that can further support their career. So it seems to me like the swimwear partnerships could be a way to work further with athletes.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Mel, you really began this digital transformation for swimming, right? With SwimSwam. I think you really create, I don't think you created this because I think there was a need for it, but I mean, you did create it. So never mind. You did create it.
I didn't create. Let's be really honest.
Well, I mean, you created like what is it? The medium is the message, right? So SwimSwam was something that you covered, and I mean, a digital medium. Like, we didn't have anything like that for swimming.
But it wasn't created by me. It's by someone that you love very dearly, and it's my
Tiff?
wife. It's my wife. My wife spent years going, there's a hole in the marketplace. This needs to happen. She has an entertainment background. She spent years in entertainment. She said, this swim needs to enter the digital
thing.
She needs to enter the digital age. And she told me what to do. And after a year and a half of telling me what to do, I did it. So, and
is that all it takes?
And she has Parity at SwimSwam.
Of course she does.
She has Parity here.
But and I look at you two as really the impetus behind swimming, getting into the digital age. And you're right, it was needed. And I think obviously with the success of what you've done, it's really it's obvious that this was something that there was a calling for. And my hope is that if, whether it's with Parity or with another organization, we're able to help support these athletes to launch themselves into, and again, I mean, I feel like we go into the gig economy. This is kind of the gig economy for sports and for women athletes in particular. And I know there are other things out there that will support both genders, but really our mission is to help women. But I think that if we can, blaze a similar trail, I think the moment is now for women athletes to start to come forward and to begin the path toward parity.
Let's get really inside baseball here.
Yeah,
we don't want to do it. We want to get down and granular in the nitty gritty. Back in our day, and almost until I would say that it still applies today. If I talk to managers and agents, I know that a majority of their time is spent talking to one person at the USOPC and one person at USA Swimming, or that counterpart at US Ski, or track and field, or gymnastics. So these basically these managers or agents are interfacing with one person, and they're saying, "What do you have for me? What do you got for me?" So someone else is doing the work. Now that's okay. That's part of their job, is to interface that way. But it seems to me like this Parity would be a great place for managers to also interface. Is that something that Parity is open to?
We'll see. We're in the middle of figuring out what that strategy is going to look like. Right now, we've been really just hustling and reaching out to brands specifically. And we're going to be doing, we're a startup, so we're going to be doing a lot of experiments. And that's a great hypothesis. So the question is going to be, if we do interface with these managers, what are we looking to get out of them? Do we think we're going to get a certain amount of dollar revenue? What's going to satisfy them? What's going to satisfy us? And test that out. And if it's a viable channel, absolutely. But we're going to be doing a lot of hypothesis testing and pivoting if it doesn't work, because at the end of the day, we know we have some of the things that work. So as we segment out those organizations and figure out where the best bang for the buck is, that's where we're going to go.
I put you on the spot. I'm sorry, but
it's stuff I've been thinking about. Yeah.
No. I put you on the spot, but it's so I'm just thinking it through and thinking and imagining myself in your seat. And I do know that we both know that a lot of these managers they have small stables of athletes, and they're not. They don't have a lot of access, but they do sign the athletes. And that's the reason why that came to mind.
Yeah.
Well, this is my hope. My hope is that we're going to see you back in the mix, back at conventions, back. I'm going to see you at the House of Delegates in September. Yep. Do you know what's going on in September? Because I'm just going to do what BJ does. And if you're thinking I'm just going to do what Mel does, we're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, if we just end up going to an Applebee's or something like we did at the past conventions when we were like teenagers. I think there's going to, there will be the typical stuff. There's going to be things that are voted on, like, let's take out this bylaw, let's do that. But at the end of the day, like, let's I think for me, it's going to be a good way to segue to get back into the sport a little bit, because as we've talked about, I've been pretty focused on my career in software for the last 10 years. So I'm just excited to get back to see everybody and to start to get my finger on the pulse of like, what are the challenges that are happening right now? Because that was certainly not my focus the last time. I think I was probably 19 when I went to my last convention. So that was my focus then, honestly, was all about partying and hanging out with people.
I think it's fair to say, and I don't want to speak for you. I can say that the US OPC changed the rules so that we had to have representation at each governing body, and they had to be 10-year Olympians.
Mm-hmm.
There was the equation. You had to have Olympic hardware. You had to be. And so we needed, USA Swimming needed us, and we're stepping up as volunteers to do this. My ulterior motive was, okay, we can get really into the nitty gritty of what the sport needs and what's going to improve it from the age group level all the way to the elite level. And I wanted to hear from my peers. I wanted, we're going to hear the issues as they come up, and I wanted to, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think, because my perspective is, we rode parallel paths, but I trust my peers when they share their opinions.
Yeah, no, I think I think there are some people who've been really, really plugged into it. And I look at you as one of those people as well. So I think that at the end of the day, for me, the things that I'll be focused on are keeping athletes safe, making sure that the rules are protective of athletes, and they allow the athletes to shine. There's always something that's a big hubbub at each one of these things around some sort of a rule change. One year they actually made a rule that you couldn't do a backflip into the water from the backstroke start, and that was the rule that they made because of me, because I did that at nationals.
This is a piece of history I didn't know, and we probably wouldn't have. I can't believe I don't know that, because I feel like I know everything when it comes to the nitty gritty of swim history. Yeah. So that makes this, in addition to this position at Parity and this and what you're going to be doing for the good of the sport, and hearing about the backstroke flip rule. Yeah, this pod was successful.
It's the BJ Bedford rule. They said get in the water feet first. So I did a backflip, and then it was right when Mark Schubert had left Texas to go to USC, and it was before we had gotten Jill Sturkle back as the head coach. So I didn't technically have a coach, and there was an assistant coach, and the officials were running up and down the pool deck looking for somebody to yell at that I had done this terrible thing of doing a backflip. And I was like, it was a 200 backstroke, and I don't know, I was just excited, and because that was probably the best part of my race, was the beginning.
God, you know what? You're so on that's so on brand for BJ too. If social media had existed in your day, you would have had a massive following.
I would have been kicked off several national teams.
I don't think so. I don't think that's fair to say.
I was
only in the best way.
Yeah, I was really glad there were no camera phones back when I was competing, because I was always in trouble. So I'm pretty sure I did get kicked off one national team. And
you're not a real national teamer. You're not a true elite unless that happens at least once. You're not.
People who didn't.
You're not in the cool crowd.
With you.
All right. If you're dropping in now, BJ Bedford, everybody knows her, everybody loves her. Olympic champion, 2000 Sydney Games. She is now working with Parity. And if you don't know the website, paritynow.co. Follow them on Instagram at paritynow. Before we sign off, let's, do you have any parting thoughts?
I'm just really excited. I'm sure we'll be back. I will be knocking on your door in 3-6 months to tell you about the things that we've done. I'm starting today, Monday, the 29th. I'm super, super excited about it. And, I don't know what I don't know right now, but my goal is to make a difference for women athletes. And I hope to be able to come back in a few months and tell you all the amazing things we're doing and how we're moving the needle.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam Podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam Podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.